This is Critter Cafe. To complete this 100%, I had to collect tons of critters, solve 35 different puzzles, make all these little guys my best friends, level up my cafe, and meet one very special person. This game took me just about 18 hours to complete, so let's get right into it. I started off by decorating my character, which, if you know anything about me, you know that it took me at least 15 minutes to do this. I gave her cute purple hair, gave her a nice little dress, even some new glasses, and then headed off to start my journey. Lost and without purpose, my friend has offered me to come visit her in Goldleaf Isle to fix up a little cafe. She started me off by teaching me how to decorate my rundown place, where I got my first achievement. Then, she sent me off with a coffee machine to start my first day at the cafe. I filled coffees until the late afternoon, then got a mysterious letter before bed. I read my letter, then went right to bed, with my character seeming relatively unfazed, because pondering on mysterious letters, who does that? Jessica had left me a note the next morning with a new fancy coffee machine, so I could now make lattes for my cafe. I switched up some furniture, went back to serving customers, this time focusing on learning the latte cafe minigame. After this day, I got another mysterious letter that told me to visit the beehives in the groves and find this rift, along with a potion. Jessica told me where to find the grove, so off I went on my tiny little bike. Didn't take long to find the rift, so I poured the potion over it and popped inside. The other lands, as they were called, were small areas where I could rescue critters, and I was on a mission to save my first one. After pushing some blocks around, I found my first critter and brought home Mogbert, and he unlocked my second achievement for rescuing him from the portal. After bringing him home, I was told to fix him up, so I did, taking him to the new habitat I had access to and giving him a little bit of TLC. Now, Mogbert was able to help out in the cafe, and what these little critters do while there, I'm not really sure. But with his cute existence in my cafe, I was able to raise the level up to 2. It was at this point Jessica suggested we make special bookings for the critters. Against my obvious judgment, I had no choice but to book poor Mogbert out like a party pet, which, crazy enough, brought his critter bond up, so I guess he likes it. Mogbert was a bit tired at this point, and I was brought to another tutorial for critter treats, which I could use for restoring stamina. And I'm gonna be honest, I never really used these. Later on, I got ones to boost Cafe XP and Critter XP as well, but again, they kind of just went under the radar for most of this game. I came back to a new minigame for the cafe, so now I could serve treats, and after another cafe day, I received another letter from my mysterious friend who wanted me to rescue another critter. This time with a gift. So now I had a hammer, and with the hammer, I could bonk, which also unlocked my third achievement. I returned to Honeycrisp. This time my goal was to reach the tree farm. I'm gonna call it that because I don't really know how to pronounce the word right. I keep calling it orchids, and it's not orchids. So, on the way, I picked up my first blueprint, and I unlocked an arcade machine for my cafe. Of course, this kind of distracted my brain, so now I was on a hunt. Specifically, a blueprint hunt. I picked up 2 blueprints in the tree farm, 1 hat and 1 backpack, another backpack near this random house, a cat ear headband near this picnic couple, and with that got an achievement for finding 5 different blueprints. The flower pots had a new cafe floor, and then I was done. For now. So I went back to my rift and prepared for another puzzle. This puzzle involved using my new hammer to break amber before I could move blocks. It does kind of bother me that the amber is green, but we won't put too much judgment on them. After a few steps, I had rescued my second critter. This one was an axolotl named Glowly, and once again I gave my buddy some TLC. A wash, a brush, some playtime, which is a combo I follow relentlessly over this game, and then he was ready to go. Jessica had given me cake to serve the customers, so now I had unlocked yet another achievement for getting all the cafe minigames, and at this point I was free to wander the world at my own pace, which kind of just meant endlessly running this cafe, but you get the point. My first objective? Decorate. I fixed my floors, my wallpaper, added some decor, some more tables, and now I was ready. After a bit of work, I unlocked my next rift at the fairy ring, that I picked up a leaf headband next to, and then went in to get Lazy Wing, a red bird. The next rift was in the picnic area. That gave me Love Hand. I think these 2 birds go really well as a cute little couple, so I was very happy. Gave both of them some TLC and headed back to my cafe. More bookings meant I was now able to have 2 critters while serving customers, so I did some more decorating, got in some cafe time. In the meantime, 2 new rifts had opened in the ruins, so I went to the ruins pond to rescue Starbee, whose puzzle had graciously added gate switches, so now I had to use 2 brain cells while solving this puzzle, which I did not have. And adding Starbee to my list had brought me up to 5 critters, so I was now at 5 achievements, just about 1/6 of the way done. I headed back to my habitat, remembered that I could decorate it, so apologies to Starby, who was sitting there terrified while I was just adding trees and apiaries around them. At this point, I had completely forgotten the other Ruins Rift. I spent like 20 minutes decorating. I did bookings, cafe minigames, unlocked the rift in a whole undiscovered part of the map. So much so that I had even unlocked a new tool along with it, the boomerang, which netted me one more achievement towards my 100%. I also had a new letter from Jessica who wanted me to head to Emerald Bay, which was a bit late since my magic letter friend was already telling me to go there long before her. It was then that I decided I should probably rescue the last critter that was in Honeycrisp before heading to a new zone. So I was off to get Wobblebill, who was a long neck critter who sounded kind of like the Aflac duck. And I mean this very literally. He did this all the time. By the end of the game, I wasn't sure I even wanted him around. And I'll even like throw in some clips if I can find them, because he was just so much every time I added him to the cafe. I can't. I don't know if I can have him in my cafe, guys. I gave our designated TLC routine to Wobblebill, headed off to Emerald Bay, which was a new part of the map along the coast. It was also good to mention that right around the time I visited Emerald Bay, I got another achievement for going there. So I picked up the windmill blueprint at the train station where I arrived and headed off to the lighthouse. That gave me another blueprint for a scooter, and then hopped into our lighthouse rift to test out my new boomerang. The boomerang let me hit targets that I couldn't touch, activating platforms to help me get through puzzles, even allowing me to aim it so that I could reach strangely placed targets. With these new abilities, I was able to rescue Driftbee, who wasn't really bee-like at all. But they did have adorable huge ears and cute freckles, so nonetheless, I was happy. Once he was home, I added some new decorations to my habitat again and settled Driftbee in. Next up was fixing the cafe. Since every level gives more furniture, I had quite a few new things I could try to fit into my cafe theme. And after fixing it up, I did a few more bouts of mini games for XP, a booking, and then more fixing, because my work is never done in this cafe, and racked up 3 more open rifts. The next goal was more creature collecting. Emerald Bay's Duck Pond was my first stop, where I picked up an ice cream truck blueprint and opened my second rift. This one had me rescuing Mushmog, who was definitely an old soul with a mustache and a mushroom head. After this, I realized I was max level with Mogbert, so I kinda called him over and got a cute little cutscene, and now we were best friends, which netted me one more achievement for the books. Up to this point, there is something I kind of forgot to mention, which is that as you level up your bond with critters, they unlock variants. The final variant is always this purple and blue kind of butterfly or royalty theme. I loved that theme on Mogbert, so of course, now he was a butterfly cat. Back to the actual game, Mushmog got his TLC, we went back home to do some bookings and mini games. Another letter from our mystery friend contained the wing clips, which gave us one more achievement. With the wing clips, I was off to do another rift, this time around the colorful houses. Before the houses was a staircase that had a Wobblebill backpack blueprint, so I picked that up, and then the lighthouse blueprint was across from the rift. Then I went into our first rift using the wing clips. The wing clips let me jump over larger gaps using special panels, so now I could occasionally fly. This gave me access to Cloudtail, who was a very fluffy critter with big ears, big tail. Before heading to my next rift, I picked up a flower blueprint that were up the stairs next to the beach sign, a hiker's backpack next to the colorful houses that was near the harbor, a Ferris wheel at the top harbor port, cafe floor on the stone pathway that was overlooking the water, and a snow shack on the very, very south end of the beach. And along with that, an achievement for collecting 15 blueprints. Finally went back to the beach to close its rift. The puzzles from here on out got a bit harder, combining multiple of the tools, but that wasn't really a problem for my space girl, so I solved the beach rift and got Quillpuff, who was a chunky blue and white bird. Around this point, I kinda shifted how I would do the gameplay, so instead of rescuing one critter, I would rescue multiple and take care of all of them after. I took Quillpuff and Cloudtail home, gave them some TLC, put them in the cafe, completed a few bookings. This gave me another purple letter, which gave me the hammer upgrade, so now I could charge my hammer up to swing it around, which was yet another achievement for me. Another letter from Jessica also asked me to come to the last part of the map, which was Frostwood Pines. But before I could go to Frostwood, I still had 2 critters to rescue from Emerald Bay, so I was heading there. The first rift was in the lower part of the picnic area and gave me Aracurl, who was a ram with bangs, and the final portal was at the lighthouse, giving me Fluttergon. Taking our new critters to get some TLC at home allowed for 2 more critter options that people could choose from, and with all of our Emerald Bay portals cleared, now we could go to Frostwood Pines for yet another achievement. Right around the time I got the first Frostwood Pines portal, I also managed to get another letter. This one upgraded my boomerang, so now I could charge it to throw it farther, which netted me a second achievement in the short span. In Frostwood, I picked up my first blueprint of the zone, which was a gray stone table for the cafe, a Showtime mirror with lights that was also for the cafe, and a starfish backpack for my character. All of those were around the ice lake. Then I went on to rescue a few more critters. The first was Reefin, who was a gecko near the ice lake. Ivir was found in the rift near the mountain shack, which was an insanely accurate name because this poor critter is 90% ear. It is just like one blob attached to a bunch of ear. Very cute. Very literal. Along the way to get the third critter, I picked up a new cafe flooring that was up the ramp to the left of where you spawn. This one was a carousel, and then I picked up a cat hat for my character at the Sherbert Grotto. I went in the Sherbert Grotto Rift to rescue Whisker Fluff, who gave me my 15th critter and another achievement. Then it was back to bookings, so I could get some more critter and cafe levels. I did this until I got the final upgrade from our letter friend. This one gave me the wing clips, so now when they were charged, they could boost me higher, and gave me one more achievement along with it. But the bookings didn't stop here. I was on a mission. I had critters to bond with and 50 cafe levels to get in total. So I kept working. At some point, I noticed my rifts were no longer just in Frostwood. In fact, they were backtracking. I had portals in new spots on the other maps. That included Honeycrisp and Emerald Bay. I decided to take a break from the cafe life around here and focus on something a little more important, which was the blueprints. So I was off to finish the ones I hadn't gotten yet. Frostwood Pines was the first stop, since I hadn't explored all the map. So I ended up picking up the trailer blueprint on the ledge overlooking the city market, a new cafe floor that was next to the Ferris wheel, the ice shack hiding near the ice sculptures, and one duck hat in Sherbert Grotto. In Honeycrisp, we had one fireplace that was on top of the stone runes, and a stone floor that was up the slope of one of the runes, which finished off that map. Surprisingly, I had already collected all of them in Emerald Bay, so now the achievement to get all the blueprints was off the list. Next was to catch up on the portal, so I used the ice sculpture portal to rescue Hibbo, who, okay, maybe I'm a little immature, but this poor critter had, like, balls for a tail. Like, it was the weirdest he does not fit in with the rest of the crew. Love him, he's still cute, but that, you know? That's the nicest way I could put it. Honeycrisp Farmhouse was next, which let me have Glitterleaf, who was a purple and bluish-green kind of leaf critter. Sealop was in the Emerald Bay runes and was a round brown and white critter that kind of reminded me a little of a Spheal. I took those 3 back home, gave them their designated TLC, and did some cafe work with them. Afterwards, it was back off to Honeycrisp, where I opened the log frame rift to get Triplume, who was a brown tall bird critter, and then immediately got distracted and spent almost an hour decorating my cafe. With my cafe back up to standards, I was off to complete another puzzle. This one gave me a furry bunny whose name was Yagi or Yogi. Not really sure how to pronounce that one. Take it as you will. Next Critter's puzzle introduced me to a new mechanic, which was using these flowers to power up my abilities. I learned these in different puzzles, but the flower gives you different abilities based off of what you're using. So the hammer gets a charge that breaks purple rocks, the boomerang gets a farther throw distance, and the wing clips get a higher jump only on the pink stones. However, they run out of time if they're not used quick enough, and they only have one charge, so make sure not to mess it up. Using this new skill, I was able to rescue Fernatail, who was another Chonkasaur who had a leaf tail. Emerald's Bay Quayside had Favern, who was another chonky dragon, with a beautiful color scheme. And with all of these new critters, I decided it was time to max out some more bonds. I gave all of them some TLC, which was a lot of critters, since I kept getting distracted and forgetting to make my critters not terrified. Then I did a bunch of bookings, maxing out most of my current critter bonds along the way. Let's do a little pivot for a second, right? This game is 80% bookings. At the beginning, I hated them, right? Like, it's so mean to sell out my critters. They're not toys, okay? But can I just, like, a little honesty? The cafe minigames are not worth it. They take 5 extra minutes for almost an equal amount of XP to the critters and cafe. The bookings are quicker, they're easier. Just to finish the game, not even go for 100%. You have to do so many bookings. Like 3 hours of my footage has to be just bookings, like nothing else. So, side rant over, back to the video. After an hour of bookings, I was back to puzzle rifts for more critters. Honeycrisp Ice Cream Truck gave me Cat Kiss, which name speaks for itself. Mothel, who was a dragon bird mix, was found at the Frostwood Ferris wheel, and Velveet, who was a furry alien critter, was at the Frostwood ski lift. Velveet gave me an achievement for rescuing my 25th critter, so now I was almost done with all of the critters in the game. The next critter was back at the train station in Emerald Bay. Lumilee was grass wrapped ball with a little light on her head. Frostwood Pines Rope Bridge gave me Plush Pack, who surprisingly wasn't even a bird, more of like a deer mix with a fluffy mane. Honeycrisp Bridge gave me Silklark, who was a fluffy purple bird. Frostwood's Ice Bridge gave me Wobbleneck, who gave me a much needed crossover between what feels like Palworld and Pokemon. And with 7 new terrified critters, it was time to go back for some TLC, decorate my habitat for the new friends. I added a lot of stuff here. I added a tent, I added some lights, new chairs, rearranged the trees, edited the zones in the sections I had been avoiding. This included the snow zone, which was really small, and this cracked corner that I wasn't really sure what it was supposed to be. I kind of felt like it was a desert, but it was just like empty stone, and so I turned it into a mini amusement park. And with all my critters happy and a newly designed home for them, I was able to continue my booking journey. I kept doing the bookings until my cafe hit level 40, which gave me another achievement, and then went back to creature collecting to grab the last of the critters. Emerald Bay, near the colorful houses, gave me this furry gremlin whose name I can't remember for the life of me, and cannot find anywhere in my clips. Emerald Bay's harbor held Ferlescent, who looked kind of like a mix between a dragon and an axolotl. In Honeycrisp, the waterfall rift gave me Bug Bushka. It's very confusing, because, like, you know how, like, sometimes you hear people call someone Babushka? And it's, like, this cute little thing, right? So imagine that, but this time as a critter, who was a cute blob with a polka dot bandana. The Frostwood Campout unlocked Tuftbrow, who was a red bird with eyebrows thick enough to definitely knock over buildings. And Frostwood Hearth and Home let me take home Solely, who reminded me of Slime Rancher. Lastly was Honeycrisp Forest, who had Tattlegoo, which was this tie-dye, Furby kind of... I don't really know what was going on with that critter. Very cute. And this unlocked me the achievement to get all the critters, and the final letter from my mysterious little purple friend. However, I was kind of worried this would end the game, so I had a bit more to do before I was ready to go see them. The achievements left were just to level up my cafe to level 50 and max all my bonds out. So, the one thing that could do both? Bookings. I did booking after booking, and after just about an hour and a half, I was finally done level 50. And then it was time for the friendship scenes. In the beginning of this video, I kind of mentioned in passing that I had become best friends with Mogbert, which unlocked me a cute little friendship scene that I could play. Now it was time to play the scene with the rest of the critters, which in total there are 35. I'll throw in a few of them playing while I talk this out, but I will note that they did get kind of repetitive after a while. They didn't vary that much, and so I ended up skipping the latter half of them. So, you know. However, with all of my bonds maxed and only one achievement left, it was time to go visit my friend. The little girl is Aurora, which is pretty close to my name. She's the traveler, the witch we heard about in our childhood stories, the one who sent us to rescue the critters, and while she has more to rescue, she couldn't do it alone, so she sent us to help her out. After meeting her, the game ends, and just like that, we've completed 100% of Critter Cafe. With the ending, let's discuss, right? Let's give it a small review. That ending was a bit short, right? That's actually because the game wasn't supposed to end there. The game is, from what I understand, abandoned now, and I believe they were supposed to add more to the game, but many of the reviews say it was abandoned and mentioned in discussions. Now, I couldn't find this myself, so it can kind of be taken with a grain of salt, but the ending, I think, was only supposed to be a temporary placeholder. So that's that. And after playing the game and getting all of its achievements, what do I think?
Hi. So, editing me, I figured out in the Critter Cafe video that I actually skipped over saying a few of the achievements. Now, I'm not really sure where to put this in the video. I'll figure that out. But just so you guys know, there were 9 achievements I skipped over. Now, I cannot for the life of me find the ninth one that would make the number whole. I wrote down the ones that I couldn't find in the video, so some of the achievements that I didn't mention were that I served 50 customers, I completed 25 bookings, I decorated my habitat, and reached cafe levels 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So, I will put up my 100% completion on the screen so you can see that I did in fact 100% this game. It happened. But that's all that I wanted to mention was just that, like, if you're looking for the other achievements, they were there. I did get them. I just didn't mention them when I was talking about the game. Uh, so I will let you guys go back to the video. Goodbye.
Critter Cafe is a cute and really easy introduction into cozy gaming. Do I think it's ideal for an older fan base? Not exactly. However, I don't always want a complex game for cozy gaming time. Sometimes I just want to be able to turn my brain off and unwind, and this game,
I think
allows
it's
me to
better
do
for
that and has a
everybody
semi
if you want
story
to
that
do
I
it
can
in
follow as well.
5 minutes, just in
Some
case there's
pros
some,
for the game,
I guess if you take a
there's
break.
a lot of critters to rescue. I mentioned it
Then you can
before,
do
but
that.
there's 35, with some varied designs that make it entertaining. And though they could have crossed the line into other animals, the starting variety was perfectly fine, especially since they were planning to expand the game later down the line. There's a good variety of furniture in the cafe, in the habitat. They span modern, they span
Oh, that
kawaii,
wasn't very nice.
cottagecore, and a few other themes that make it easy to decorate the cafe to your liking, especially since there's no stats tied to the furniture. The puzzles aren't overly complex, though some can be difficult. They're mostly easy and can be done without a guide or too much thinking. If you don't like the original critter color schemes, you can also change it once you become better friends with that critter. I will note that a lot of the color schemes they seem to be the same. So like the first one is always like their normal one, the third one's always like some orange kind of color, the fifth one's always the purple and blue, like royalty theme. So some critters might not even have a color scheme you like, but there are different ones to kind of tailor to different tastes. The mini games that you play during the cafe days make the game more interactable, which is always fun because sometimes cozy games that are cafe based miss the mark on that one. There are an equal amount of cons, though, that make the game just a bit difficult to play and kind of repetitive. The
Oh.
mini games are slow, they don't have much variety, they aren't worth the slightly increased XP. You often only get a few customers per day, which I guess kind of works out since the minigames can get a bit boring, but it just kind of makes the mini cafe part like feel lacking and more like it should be mainly a creature collector instead. They don't have a numbered order for the creature puzzles. If you'd like to save them like I do, then you can eventually get a bit lost on the puzzles and what you're supposed to be doing. I will say to counter this though, they do have signs on every puzzle. So if you ever get lost, you can kind of just read them and figure out your way. The best friend scenes don't vary too much, which means towards the end I just ended up skipping a lot of them because I knew it was in store. It would have been nice if they added something like that for each of the different critters because they have the ability to. I feel like they should have had the ability to. In customized mode, there's not really any overlap on objects either, so some of the decorations look a bit out of place. And if you're used to bigger building games that are like sim style games, you might not like their build mode as much as some of the other games that have cozy building aspects. I do recommend the game overall. While I don't see them fixing the cons of it, the pros still make it worthwhile. I think it should be bought at a slight discount. For the cons, the $20 tag for it seems like a lot. I'm also not a game dev though, so something like this could be a lot of work and it might be a completely average price. If you like the 100% video, you can subscribe, you can follow. I have a goal to kind of 100% as many games as I can. I love posting and talking about them. I'm a Yaposaurus, as you could probably figure out. Uh, my name's Aura. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.